you could spread the virus, you could spread the poison, or you could spread the magic, and you could spread the love, and everyone you touch gets impacted by that. Be the change you want to see in the world. So that's a famous quote from Gandhi, which has so much deepness and so much meaning to it, but somehow sometimes words get lost in translation, because when you just read words, it doesn't merely have meaning until you integrate and embody the message behind the words. And so this is why I feel called to share about this beautiful, famous quote. I've been living by it for probably since I've heard it in the last 10 years. I don't remember when was the first time, but I think it's been at least 10 years. And over time, I understand it at a deeper and deeper level, and the impact it has in the world to be that change. Because for so long, I felt so disempowered. And I feel like that quote was the beginning of my process of embodying this change within me and harnessing my own power within this world, instead of giving my power away, and instead of putting these unrealistic expectations over me and over the world too. I want to talk about an example of a period in my past which can shed light on this quote on both extremes, when you're not the change and you are the change. So back in 2021, we had the pandemic, as everyone knows, and I am from Canada, and it was pretty intense. In Canada, you know, we had the curfews, we had the vaccine mandates, and I was part of the people that was completely against what was happening, and was seeing through the illusions and through like the manipulation. And I was frustrated, I was angry, I felt like they were like taking our power away, and I was part of the people who didn't get the vaccine, and I was in total refusal to do it, because I was like, I do not believe that it is for the best interest of myself and for anyone around me. I don't believe that I am protecting anyone around me, and I don't believe I'm protecting myself by taking that. I really, like, that was my belief, and I'm like, I'm not just gonna do it because it's the norm and I want to fit in, or because they tell me to do it. Like, I've been building my critical mind for a long time, and I was just like, hell no. And you know how it went. There was this whole process that they kept on adding to try to convince more people to get the vaccine. And you know, it starts at first that they're like, oh, it's not like you have the choice to do it or not, but then they were using like your emotions, like you want to keep everyone safe around you, you wouldn't want to like endanger your family or your grandma or stuff. So people sometimes would do it because they were like, oh, I don't want to hurt someone else, but they didn't think it was good for them, but they're like, I don't want to hurt someone else. And then they started putting other like manipulation techniques, some really stupid ones, like giving you hot dogs in exchange of like, or donuts in exchange of getting it, which that I guess some people maybe bought into it, but you know, the people who had convictions, that would have not worked on them for sure, like around that topic. And then they started also painting a really ugly picture of the people who were not doing it. So we are anti-vax, we are murderers, we are selfish, egoistic, we don't believe in science. There was all these things. So a lot of people that didn't want to do it started doing it because, you know, they want to be liked, they want to be loved, they want to fit in. And it's just a natural human reaction, or like feeling, you know, since we're born we want these things, so we really have to like stand ground. But a lot of people did it at that point, and then for the people that it didn't work, they continued adding stuff like, okay, now you're not allowed to go to the restaurant anymore, you're not allowed to go to the stores, you're not allowed to travel. Like, I know a lot of people who did it because they wanted to travel. They're like, no, hell no, that I'm staying stuck here my whole life. And then they continue to add stuff where at some point they even we were not allowed to go to the liquor shop and to the weed shop, because it's legal in Canada, so that is going to get people in their vices, like in the addictions that they have to cope with life, to cope, especially in that period. Like, people were really stressed, people were losing their jobs, people's mental health was struggling a lot, so like sometimes that's all they had to cope, and then they took that away, so that could have, like, to convince people, even more people, to do it. And for me, it was like pretty much the opposite. The more they would put these mandates, the more I was like I don't want to do it even more, because you're forcing me so much to want to do it. First of all, it doesn't inspire confidence. Like, I'm like, that's odd. And I was also having like issues with like the authority they were trying to have over my body, and I was like, hell no, I'm gonna die for this, like, literally. But the thing is, it was still affecting me, and at some point I was realizing how I was living in fear. And that's like July and August 2021. Like, I really remember it was starting to really get to me. Like, every night I was doing research about like what was happening around the world, in Australia and in other places where it was really bad, and the things they were doing. And I was like, this is nonsense. How can people not see this? And how can they not open their eyes? Like, and I was seeing this like crumbling down. And then there's all these conspiracy theorists that was like, they were sharing, and I was part of them, so we were sharing so much stuff around this, and it was a lot of fear-mongering stuff, like stuff that was keeping us in this like empowered state of fear, and of like not like we don't have control over this. And they're like, and I was sharing on social media like so much stuff around them, and I was just spreading out the fear even more, and I was living in fear. Even if I was like standing my ground, I'm like, I'm not gonna comply, and I was like having authority over my choices in my body, and having like my like discernment, I was still in that state of fear. And at some point, like, it was really poisoning myself. It was really poisoning me, and I was scared, because like all these theories were saying that they were building centers, and that they would take the non-vax and they would put us into these centers, and like that they were force it upon us, and we'd like be in a non-vax prison or whatever. And I was like, man, like, I was like living in Montreal, where it was pretty like hardcore, and I was like, man, like, I was preparing an escape. I was like, I need to prepare everything. I need to have a bag with food and with like supplies, so that, and I was imagining the scene where they come to my door, and they like, and I had to run away by my back door, and I was like, what am I going to do with my cats? And I was this like, and you know, when you think about something happening that is not actually happening, it's still, for your brain, it's still like it's actually happening. Like, that's how your brain registers it. Like, your thoughts are so powerful that if you're thinking about this situation, it's like it's happening in real time, even if it's not. And there would have, like, there's a possibility that that could happen. Like, this could have happened, but it was not happening now. It was happening in my head, in my fears, but it was not happening now. And at some point I was like, okay, Stacey, what's going on? Because like, this was affecting me and poisoning me. I was like, what's going on? And there's also this guy that had talked about this, like, show up in the world, like, be the change you want to see in the world. It's not like that he said it, but I had watched a video of this guy talking about a subject around that in relation to the pandemic, and it got me thinking too. And at some point I was like, okay, Stacey, what are you scared about? Like, what are you scared about here? And I sat down with this fear, and like, the fear was that I would be ripped from all my rights, and they would take me by force and literally like stab me with the vax, and or like just keep me in prison. And basically that all goes down to the fear of death. And I was like, that's the worst that could happen, okay? That's the worst case scenario. Could you be okay with that? Could you be okay with the possibility that that could happen? Because no matter what, I don't have control over it, okay? It could or could not happen, but right now in my life, this is where I'm living. I don't have another solution, and like, being in scare and fear is not gonna save me. That's not what's gonna save me. Being in that state of fear is not gonna prevent me from this happening. So I really faced that fear within me. I was like, how would you like this? What do you want to see more in the world? Because I was seeing all of this playing out, and I was like, from this situation, what do I want to see grow in the world? I want to see people waking up to their true essence. I want to see people waking up to like the choices they have, to their authority, to being able to have like a critical mind, discernment, being able to be in a state of love. And like I was seeing how people were turning against each other, the separation, the vax, the non-vax. People were saying like, I don't want to see you, you're a murderer, and all these things. And I was like seeing that, and I was like, that's so sad. Like, we're humans, we're like, I don't care if you're vaxxed or not. Even when I was in the state of fear, I was like, I don't care what choice you make. Like, I still want to love you because I understand that it's coming from a state of fear, you know, it's not because you're bad or I'm bad. Like, can we just love each other? Can we just accept our differences? Can we just like stand together? I was like, we need to stand together no matter what our perceptions are of this situation. And I was really like, that's what I wanted to see grow in the world. I started to embody that. I really switched, and I was able to embody that by facing my biggest fear, because that was ruling me, that was taking control over me, and it was really taking my power away. And by facing this fear within me, I was able to like shake hands with it kind of and be like, it's okay, you're allowed to be there. And I still love you, but this is not how I want to operate, and this is not healthy for me, and this is how I reclaim my power. And then what I was sharing on social media with my friends around me, how I was interacting with everyone, was coming way more from this place of empowerment, of trust, of love. That's what I was putting out there. And like, we needed that more than ever. Like, we didn't need more fear. We needed like more loving energies. And you know, like, part of my family didn't want to see me because I was not vaxxed, and some people were like, oh, like, that's insane. And I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't hate them for that. Like, I actually, like, I love them from all my heart, and I feel bad that they're in that space of fear at the moment, and that they're letting these messages like infiltrate their mind. But it's okay. I accept that that's where they are, and I don't take it personal, because it's not personal. It's just about them, where they are within their fears, you know? And I decided to show up in that kind of way. And at the end of the day, I never got ripped apart from my place. No one kidnapped me, okay? And so it could have happened, but at the end of the day, like, all this wasted energy I would have been putting on that when it was actually just stripping me away from all the power and life force I had, because I was letting the fear feed onto me instead of feeding onto love. Anyways, just this whole story just to say, like, this is the spitting representation of what be the change you want to see in the world means. Because as much as like I was seeing what I didn't want in the world, okay, and by embodying and by becoming the change I wanted to see, I was experiencing a whole different experience. Like, the way I was seeing this situation was in such a different light. The way I was experiencing this world was so much lighter, so much more empowering, so much calmer. And from this space, I could do so much more impact. And imagine if all beings on the planet at that moment, okay, would have been in this state of love. Everything, all the manipulation, all the fear mongering, all these mandates and stuff, they would have just not worked. So the change truly starts with you. And maybe you feel like you are just one little human and like you don't really have an impact, but you do, because you could spread the virus, you could spread the poison, or you could spread the magic, and you could spread the love, and everyone you touch gets impacted by that. It's like the domino effect. Like, the things you share really have an impact, and people absorb, and it infiltrates. So it could be on the side of fear and of manipulation, but it could be also on this other side where we regain our personal power. So as much as embodying this change helps you and helps the way you show up in the world and the way you see the world, like, everything changes, as much as it does have an impact within the world, and then more people show up in this way, and more and more and more, and then slowly and surely we're healing on a collective level. So if you're watching this today, like, every situation that you see in front of you and you're like, this is not what I want. It could be anything. Like, yes, it could be in relation to the government or in relation to the food system, like how everything like has pesticides. Or it could be like on another level of like, you know, you're a girl and you're always dating these guys that are like cheating and lying and like using you or like disrespecting you. And you see that and you're like, I'm so fed up. And you could see that and give your power away to that, or you could become this change and become what you don't want to see, like become the opposite of what you don't want to see. Like you're always going in these relationships with these guys that are like kind of more like on the toxic end, and you're like, I'm so fed up of this. And I'm not saying that you are that toxicity, but there's a part of you that is allowing these people within your space, and there's a part of you that is also like the subconscious mind registers everything and scans all the information around. So when you meet someone, your subconscious mind has already done a full scan of this person and knows way more than your conscious mind. So you're just meeting this person, blah, blah, and you're like, oh, he's cool, he's fine. And then you end up like dating this person and you find out he's again like all the other ones. And you're like, why do I keep attracting these guys? But you're not truly attracting these guys. You are attracted towards these guys because there's a pattern, and you keep on repeating this pattern because there's a part of you inside of you that agrees with the way they treat you. And it could be the part of you that has a story where you don't have value, you're not worthy, and then you're just going to continue meeting people who come to prove that, yes, I'm not worthy and I deserve this. So being the change you want to see in the world is operating on a frequency that doesn't allow anymore these people into your space, that when you meet these people, like you won't even be attracted towards them anymore because you've moved above that. And how do you do that? You face your fears, you face that darkness within. And at the end of the day, like how you're going to end up perceiving this is that they are operating through their darkness. And that's what you were seeing outside of you. And you're like, I'm so fed up of that. So you want to not be operating through your darkness. So that's how you embody that change and you become that change. So you start meeting that darkness within. You start befriending it in a way, create union from within. And then in that space, you just show up differently. So once again, imagine if all the girls on the planet, all the women would be in that space, that they moved at a higher frequency. They faced all the beliefs that they are unloved and are unworthy, and they know their worth. Like they're like I will not accept anything above this level of worth, and I want a guy that is conscious, that is aware, that is loving, that understands his emotions. If all the women would be in that state, men that are not in that state would have to level up. They would have no other choice to do it because it's in the human nature to need to want to mate and make babies and survival. You know, that's how it works. And if they can't have any woman and they can't stay in those patterns, they're gonna have to level up. They'll be like, okay, well, it's time, because it's gonna be a survival instinct at this point, like because they won't have anyone to mate with. So being the change, becoming that change really truly has an impact on everything. And you have to trust that whatever change you do within you is powerful. And I feel like we grew up in a world that didn't teach us about our power, about how powerful we are. And I feel like it was done on purpose because they don't want to know the power we have, because they want to control us. They want us to just do what they want us to do. You know, there's a lot of darkness within this world. But the more we embody this power that we truly have, the more we connect to ourselves, the more we show up in that way, the more like we are creating a new paradigm. This is what they say when they're talking about the new earth. This is the energy. It's not an actual physical new earth. It's this energy that people are embodying, and that we are starting to create this new earth through this energy. And it doesn't matter if not everyone is following within this realm, like it's still happening. It's still happening. It's still having an impact. And the consciousness, the collective consciousness is expanding. Like the frequency is higher and higher. And just as a side note, like it's okay if it's not perfect, because like change takes time and we're undoing all these things, and we're like in the first generation that is really working on this. So we're undoing like years and decades and centuries of conditioning and of being stripped away from our power. So it could take time, and that's why we stand together, and that's why there's a lot of people doing videos like this, a lot of people stepping up and sharing the message. Like it's just to raise the level of awareness around these topics. And so wherever you are in your journey, it's okay, but I hope with this video you can have a level of awareness that's a bit higher, and you could question it a bit more when you see yourself doing something that is not in alignment with what you want to see in the world, what you want to see grow in the world. And then you could be like, oh, what part of me is not in alignment with that? And you start doing that shadow work and that like addressing these aspects of yourself. We don't fight violence with violence. We don't tell a child to stop raising their voice by raising our voice to them. Like people learn by example, and we set the tone and we live by that. That's why embodying our truth and being this change has so much impact. Let me know what you think in the comment, and if you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to my channel. I'm always happy to talk, so you could slide in my DMs or write to me or just comment, and we can exchange on anything that boils your heart. See you soon. Talk to you soon.